Saturday, Princeton. So the Ivy League champs, Princeton, heads to College Park to take on Maryland.
What's going on, guys? It's Greg from East Coast Eyes. Last night was Selection Sunday. Today we're going to be breaking down some of the most controversial comments about the bracket this year. Every year it's tons of fun to watch Selection Sunday and see what people are complaining about on Monday. It's my favorite thing to do is to break them down, and I cannot wait for this tournament. So one thing to keep in mind is that the selection committee used what's called RPI, which basically ranks a team's wins and losses and combines it with their strength of schedule. So it says how strong are your wins, how weak are your losses, and produces a number through an algorithm. And a lot of this is done by that. People love to compare head-to-head games. Oh, Cornell almost beat Notre Dame. They should be in. It is done a little bit that way, but that's not the entirety of what makes these selections. So we're going to put the bracket up. You guys can take a look. Let me know down in the comments who you think the championship winner is going to be. Notre Dame obviously looks unstoppable right now, but I'm a real sucker for an upset and an underdog. So let's look at some of the top comments. And the main thread that I saw was number one, the Ivy Leagues got screwed. So Cornell, UPenn, and Yale were all listed as the first three schools out, which means they were right on the bubble and did not make the tournament. And I think Penn State was probably the last one in. This is tough because these teams have some should-be tour-time finalists. Cornell has C.J. Kurse. Yale has Matt Brandow. And I think everybody really wanted to see these guys in the playoffs and to see what they could do as they work toward a championship or a tour-time. In the end, I think they lacked some of that head-to-head competition, and only one Ivy in Princeton, who won the tournament or who won the Ivy League tournament and the automatic bid, got to go to the final championship. I'm bummed to see these teams not make it, and I did really want to see C.J. Kurse play because he's a really exciting and fun player. The next is that Maryland did not deserve the seed they got and did not deserve the home game they got. I think Glovegate might have spoiled people in Maryland a little bit because people seem to be really wanting to root against Maryland, but Maryland has lost their last two games, including getting doubled up by Penn State. So I think people thought it was a little odd that they would get a top seeding after not winning their own conference championship, and they'd also get a home game when maybe people thought Penn State deserved that home game because Penn State just killed Maryland in the Big Ten semifinals. So that one's a little weird. Again, I think people are really rallying around rooting against Maryland right now. Maryland has a great track record in the playoffs, so you can't count them out. So we're going to have to see what happens with a seeding at College Park and a chance for them to make a run. And finally, people do not love all the automatic bids. They see teams like Utah make it, like Albany make it, like Lehigh make it, and these are fantastic teams, and they deserve to be there because they won their conference championship. I think people just feel like the teams that were on the bubble, like the Ivy Leagues, maybe would have a better chance of winning than those teams. I think those teams are important to have in the bracket because, number one, they've earned it by winning their conference. Number two, they bring in that upset possibility where you have a team like Delaware from a couple years ago that pulled off some upsets. I think they need to be there. I think another big comment is that there's just not enough teams in the playoff bracket, and this would fix a lot of the problems. So if you were to add maybe 2 more playing games, get to 4 total more teams, all those Ivies that were on the bubble could have been included, and maybe 1 more. I think that not having enough teams just means that really good teams are left on the sideline because the drop-off after the last team that gets in this year, Penn State, is not much at all. Penn State, you're splitting hairs to decide that the last team in is better than the next 3 that didn't get in. And by having more games, you got to have a couple play-ins during the week, build up that hype, and then go into the first weekend with a chance at some upsets and try and include a couple teams that are all extremely good. And there's always going to be bubble teams. Even if you add more teams, there's still going to be bubble teams on the other side. But I think that would just give you the chance to include more teams who probably deserve to be there. So a couple things I'm most excited for in this tournament. Number one, the chance for an Albany versus Notre Dame playoff game. Notre Dame playing out of their minds right now. But the last time Albany and Notre Dame met in the playoffs, that was with Lyle Thompson and Miles Thompson, and it was an amazing game. So I really hope they get a chance to rematch. And number two, Syracuse versus Towson in the first round. I just filmed the Towson CAA Championship where they beat Delaware in the rain. It was an amazing game. Towson, I think, has a below 500 record over the last 5 years. Just came back, won their conference championship, has a top 20 ranking, and is coming to the playoffs with a lot of momentum. So I think everybody remembers the last time Towson played Syracuse in the playoffs. I'll leave you with that clip.
Nothing after 1. Drenner does not have blinding speed, but he's got 2 hands.
Sider with his 4th. How did he get that off?
Mark the yardage here. He's at 15, sidearm outside the football hash marks. This view is going to be scintillating. Doesn't get any better than taping a corner like that. Oh my gosh.
Indeed, Evan Malloy, the